talk about how structured versus unstructured plays into context engineering, why that's valuable, and then let's talk about how that's starting to evolve into context graph.
Sure.
Okay. So, so there's a debate running around. You see it on LinkedIn quite a bit. You see it at conferences. I think there were several presentations that brought this up on, unstructured is better for AI. Structured is better for AI. And both sides, in my experience, are kind of talking past each other, maybe missing the point, and not really getting down in the nitty gritty of like, what do you mean when you say structured versus unstructured? One is better for AI versus one is less good for AI. So I think there's two different things that we want to talk about here. One is like, when does one input versus the other? So like actually putting unstructured content into the AI versus structured content into the AI versus, I personally think, you may disagree with me on this, the more important conversation, which is where is structure necessary? Like where is the value in that in terms of the overall systems?
So I'll give some interesting examples of it because I think this debate is also very hot because what we're seeing is you see one test where someone says that putting in structure is just noise. That's just going to confuse the AI. They don't need that.
Yep.
Just put in the words.
Yep.
You've got other cases, and I've tested this myself, when putting in structure really, really helps.
Mm-hmm.
The one that I think is a like a killer definite example is anything is tabular.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you put in a table, like a table, an unstructured table is terrible. Even like a comma separated values, which I guess is a site, like a type of structured, like a spreadsheet is
literally a type of structure.
Literally call that a structure. It's terrible. It's just awful results. Because if you look at a table and you read it, the columns are described across the top. And then once you're down 50 rows, it's been a long time since you've seen what those rows mean. Yeah. So you completely lose track. Like a human has to do that. Like if you're looking at a spreadsheet, and you're in the middle of the spreadsheet, you go, where the hell am I?
Yeah.
And that's why the rows and the columns are always, you have to freeze them because you lose track of where you are. Same thing happens to an AI. Once they're reading deep into the table, they have no idea where they are anymore. Mm-hmm. So they completely mix up what's in column A and what's in column B. So if you structure it and each row wraps each piece of item and repeats it and says, this is the address, this is the part number, this is the whatever. If you have structure at that level, it's much better, vastly better at understanding what's actually in the content because by the time it gets to any piece of information, it has all the context right there. If you're talking about other forms of content that are not tabular, you might get wildly different results. So there isn't a right answer to this right now. What we do know is we want to make sure that it has the right level of granularity to guide it. So if you're in a table, you're going to need very granular information because you need to know this 7, what the hell does 7 mean? I need all the context that the table gives me to tell me what 7 means. And I need it right there around the 7, or else I'll get lost. If I'm talking about a flowing concept definition, maybe I only need to just talk about what product I'm talking about, and then I can just talk, and it will be able to summarize that just fine. So it's not the reason I think these people are having these back and forths is because there is not a single all across the board answer yet.
Yeah, I'm not sure there ever will be a one answer to it because so I haven't personally tested dropping tables in under one format versus another.
It's a disaster. Yeah.
So I'm going to take your word for it. I believe that you know what you're talking about there. I think it's really evident of something I want to touch on in a second, but like I have kind of a counterexample of, and I think a lot of people have used things similar to this. So I was testing glossary terms, trying to figure out what the best way to indicate to an LLM when to use one version of a word versus another. So, part of the way you do that is you use synonyms in glossary. And when I was dropping in glossary in full structure, in this case, I was using the gloss and structure for DITA. that didn't perform very well, which was kind of surprising to me. I was like, oh, I figured this would be a really good format. So I wrote an XSLT and I transformed it to another format. That didn't work really well either. It was still a structured format. And I ended up writing basically going into the same XSLT and deleting all the structure and replacing it with like, this word can also mean the or. So it was, in a way it's semantic structure, like it's human structure.
Just good.
Yeah.
It's just a well-written sentence.
Right, but it just ended up being like each glossary term was like, this word can also mean or it can mean, or it can mean, or it can mean. And that worked perfectly. Like that was the structure that the AI really liked in this particular case.
So one of my go-to phrases in this world is it's large language model, not large database model.
Mm-hmm.
So it's designed from the ground up to understand human language.
Yep.
And so there are cases, for example, like my table case, where if you described a table in words, that would not be the most efficient way to present that. That's why we put them in tables.
Right.
However, in that case, it kind of makes sense to me because that's its native way of understanding that the way that words relate to each other is through words.
But here's the thing I wanted to say about your table case, which I think it's like the perfect bridge over to like structure versus unstructured.
Okay.
So I think you're probably right about having the table structured and the metadata in the table at the point of the data.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I wonder is if you're better off having a deterministic system making the selection out of the table and putting just that in.
For sure.
And that's kind of where you're thinking, like you're better off with structure upstream.
Yeah.
Because maybe today you really have to make like fine-grained selections to get the right context.
Yes.
Maybe in the future, like you want to do a different set of selections. But structure gives you the ability to do that mutation. Like same thing in my glossary example, where if I had that glossary in something that was unstructured or less structured, I wouldn't have been able to been like, oh, well, I'll just write an XSLT to try a different version, And perhaps the version that I had in that moment, which was like a year ago, doesn't work that well today. But I could just change the XSLT and I could find a version that does work better.
Okay, so XSLT for...
Oh, yeah, good point, yeah.
Is basically... What we're both saying, I think, is that if you have your content in a structured format, you've got options.
Exactly.
I can feed my structure into like a little table lookup tool. Then the AI can use my little table lookup tool, and then it could get a perfect answer. It wouldn't have to interpret the table. That's much better than trying to have it interpret the table.
Yeah.
You had your glossaries in structured format, so you can say, I'm going to translate this into natural language. I'm going to try it in another type of structure. I'm going to try it in JSON versus data. If you don't have the structure in the first place, you don't have those options.
Exactly.
And that's where you get in trouble.
That's the
context
breakdown.
engineering is, I'm going to figure out how do I dose in the right information to this thing so that it's going to have the most accurate answer. And you can't dose in a database. You can't dose in your entire manual. You have to have upstream systems that the AI can use. We haven't used the word agentic yet.
Yeah.
If you've got an agent, treat that agent like your little virtual what it is. It's a little intelligence, and you're going to have to give it access to the tools it needs to do its job.
And those are going to evolve.
Yeah.
That's the critical point. So you wouldn't put your database in a PDF. So why would you put your content, your information into a PDF? The ability to make selection and do mutation on data, content, whatever it may be, as these technologies evolve to create different dosing, different strategies and structures, even between different agents and different systems for different purposes. That's why structure exists. So the thing to really get down to the point of it that I feel continuously gets missed in this debate about, oh, LLMs like structure, they don't like structure, whatever it may be, is that, yeah, your LLM, your use case may really prefer getting your content in Markdown. I believe you. Like, but that doesn't mean you should keep it marked down. It's just like the people that, so in 2005, people were like, well, everybody reads the PDF, so let's just use InDesign. And then in 2012, everyone's like, well, we're going away from print forever, so let's just keep all our content in HTML.
Ugh.
It's the same thing.
It's the same discussion we've been having for 30 plus years, which is that you need to keep your content not in the delivery format.
Because it will change.
Because it will change in there, and you will have the other ones still.
Yeah, totally.
So then we're still delivering PDFs.
Yeah,
we're still delivering.
You would be shocked how many of our customers are still primarily PDFs.
I'm not. I wouldn't be. I would sadly.
You're probably the one person in the world who wouldn't be shocked. But yeah, it's wild.
So we're still doing PDFs. We're still doing. We're gonna do voice. The text to voice, and we're also going to do chat. The number of people who are saying that user interfaces are going to go away because we'll just talk to the machine and get all our. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
Right.
There's this. I cannot get over how every time a new channel comes out, there's somebody who's going to just die on the hill of this is the only channel we'll ever use going forward, and I don't get it. I don't get this why enthusiasm has to erase common sense.
Yeah, I don't really understand that perspective either. Like, the thing is that technology always builds on itself.
Yeah.
So, like, paper still has value.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I read pretty much every book I read in hard copy paper.
Yeah.
Because in that particular application, it's better.
Yes. And so it's when we come back to there's the question of how do we feed our LLMs? And then there's a question of how do we store our content in the age of LLMs? That hasn't changed.
Store and maintain.
We want to store and maintain our content in structure.
Yeah.
And then we want to have systems that deliver that to the right channel in the right way.
Right.
So we transform it in one way for the web. We transform it in another way for print. We're going to transform it in other ways for AIs.
Exactly.
And that fundamental is, I think, I hope calming for people that we don't have to like reinvent the wheel for that.
Yeah. I think it's calming for people who understand that and have support.
Yeah.
I think it's frustrating for people who want to push the delete button and just have the AI do all the work.
I don't know if those are your listeners. So
they're probably not the audience for this podcast. Yeah. So I think we've done a good job of defining context, talking about structure, where it fits in the different parts of the process. So pause for a second. Want to talk about centaurs.
Awesome.